Welcome to What the Flick, everybody. Downton Abbey, Season 6, Episode 2. My God, where is Marigold?
Ah!
I thought they, as the parent of a small child, I was like, settle down. You're panicking a little early.
Because, well, I mean, for the audience, they certainly telegraph it enough.
Yeah,
You know that's going to be the thing. And then, it's like, okay, you're at a fair. Like, she can't have gone far,
Right. It's not...
I know we don't have Amber Alerts yet, but come on.
Yeah.
It really felt like 2015 with every like the momentum of everything. I'm like, the moment you lose a kid, now you tend to freak out, but it's good to know that they're concerned parents back in the day.
It is. But
Out in the country, they're like, she's in a paddock somewhere.
Edith was like, Edith did a stand-up thing to protect Mrs. Drew by not calling it an abduction or anything.
True.
In fact, and then said, we've received word, we've received communication. She's at Miss, and I'm like, how could you possibly have received communication? In what way are we going to pretend Mrs. Drew communicated?
Some guy in a tractor just went by yelling.
Right. I mean, did she call the local shop? I don't think that happened. I don't think we're at that point yet. But anyway, thank
Courier
God
pigeon.
she's well. So my wife aching for Mrs. Drew, and I guess that is certainly a legitimate point. Why can't we tell Mrs. Drew?
Because that would be scandal.
But it's okay for Mr. Drew to know.
Yeah.
Well, I think Mr. Drew, because he's a tenant on their property, knows better.
And knows discretion. And limit,
right, exactly. And I think that then that becomes, you'd be handing Mrs. Drew like a blackmail weapon, with giving her that information.
That said,
not that she's done anything wrong. I
No,
mean, that's the thing. Her attachment to the kid is completely understandable. She's done nothing bad here. And I'm just noticing that it looks like I have rabbit ears with this picture behind me.
Oh my God, it really does.
It's a little
and now you can never unsee that.
No.
Anyway, go ahead.
But like Mr. Drew is in a position to massively relieve his wife's anxiety with this information. I think he should do it.
Yeah.
It is the decent human thing to do, say, we're sworn to secrecy here, but Marigold is Edith's daughter, that's why. And then you think Mrs. Drew would be like, oh, okay, all right, well, at least this I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I got this now.
And it's such an odd attachment for some, like, the kid isn't hers, she has her own children. It's a very maternal attachment, and I kind of feel like they've played this up and the payoff just wasn't there.
Well, my wife says that like, you got to think of whatever year, we're in 1925, so move back 90 years, and Mrs. Drew is, this is a great point by my wife, Lee Mankiewicz, by the way. She's a professional mother. That's her only thing. Her job is a mother, and she mothered this kid from birth. And then it was yanked from her.
Yeah, they bonded.
They bonded, they made that connection, and then inexplicably, because you're not wealthy, but we're going to give this random kid to someone else who doesn't love her as
well. I agree that it would be a good thing to tell her. The fact that she abducted this kid now rules her out as someone that you can trust with that information.
Although, is it, yes, abducting the kid, it's a pretty minor abduction. When you take the kid home and eventually, no matter what, they're going to come home and find you.
I'm just saying, if there was some wiggle room before we think, okay, maybe I guess we can tell her. Now it's like, well, no, now we can't.
And now everything, any future contact is just, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done.
Now it's restraining order time.
Yeah.
But good news for Mr. Whatever, I suspect.
The guy with the hogs?
Yeah, no, the guy, Drew's gone, but
for Daisy's father-in-law. Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's sitting right there.
Right, move into that place and problem solved.
Yeah.
God evicts a tenant and opens a window. And I love the word fat stock. It's like
what was fat stock?
That's what they kept. That's where they're showing the pigs.
Oh, really? I missed that.
And I just thought, I was at fat stock, but I had the brown bacon and I don't remember anything.
Those are some good-looking pigs.
I know.
Yeah, with the little spots and everything. No, they should win. Mary is. She can be loathsome for long stretches of time.
What the kids call a real C.
She means, I suppose, well, and there's not, except toward Edith, there's not great malice toward it. Like, she wants to help Anna. That's a legitimate help, and she did, except Anna will die. But she doesn't know that. We know it because we watch television. I hope not, obviously. That just seems like too much tragedy. But they're certainly setting up that possibility, of course. And then your silence is excellent. Meredith has seen it, so she knows whether this surgery goes wrong for Anna. But so that's okay. But like the Mrs. Hughes, Johnny Carson stuff is like that's just obliviousness. I mean, it's not cruelty, but it's like just not even checking in for half a second.
And it's funny because I was watching with Dave, and he didn't buy that that Mrs. Hughes would make this fuss over it, that she would turn down the invitation, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, no, I think this is somebody who's been in service her entire life. This is her wedding day, her long delayed, wedding day. And she is certainly somebody who's been around long enough and has her own mind enough to be like, I do everything for these people. It's very sweet of them to offer, but this is my day. I don't want it to be an adjunct to their house.
But don't you I think that the reason why it works is because Mrs. Hughes has been much more adaptable to changes throughout this show than Mr. Carson. So I'm going to guess that 6 years ago, if Carson and Hughes get together, she probably accepts it.
Yeah.
But I think she has some Daisy in her. I think this is all part of the, hey, we're people.
Yeah, we don't just exist as their like accessories.
Right, because even Thomas was like, to me, it wasn't just it's both the massive nature of the 6 jobs in one, the jack of all trades, but also like just the namelessness of it. Like, I mean, like you're just, that he's like, no, like these people, as Daisy is mostly representing, are ready to stand up, and they're resentful of it. And so is Mrs. Drew. They're like, what? Just because they're rich, they get everything?
Right.
Like, this is crap. And that sentiment is getting echoed, I think, even faster than the people who realize it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a recurring thing. I mean, early on, remember, there was the maid who took the typing lessons, and, certainly with, Tom, the chauffeur, marrying into the family. But yeah, I think now that the whole system is on the verge of collapse, we're really seeing everybody, definitely on both sides, but certainly on the downstairs end, people are like, we're done.
And it's interesting when you see Mrs. Hughes start to take that, because when we start to see that older class of the class take those steps, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, I think that does. It's a bigger deal than Daisy, who you expected, who's prepared more.
Young
to be
firebrand.
Rabble-rouser, right. I thought Miss Hughes, I love that, like they're going to get married, it's beautiful. And then, like, nonsense petty jealousy starts, like, out of nowhere, like, well, of course, if Lady Mary says you drop everything you're doing for. And he's like, what is happening?
But that's not jealousy per se. That's just knowing him and his personality. I thought that was
no,
a
but
fair call.
to me, it's like, no, I think there's a degree of, not outright, she's not jealous that he's going to, but, like, you'll do anything for her.
Yeah, if she says it, you ask how
you're
high.
Ill, but here I am, I'm your wife, and you're not going to do it for me.
Right.
He's like, it's I don't, but he found a little backbone there at the end, even if it was perhaps inappropriate. The
hospital thing, I'm trying to get interested in this.
I think it has to be seen as a metaphor for the change also.
Sure, yeah, no, absolutely.
Otherwise, no, because it's, I mean, like,
How else does the end come for the Countess, or the Dowager, Countess, because her world is, she's already in the small house, she's already got the small staff, she could very easily go through the rest of her life without any kind of hiccups. And so, yeah, you're right. I think this is sort of the way of, this is how she has to deal with the encroaching 20th century.
But also, but what's her name? What's the...
Mrs. Isabel.
Isabel,
Right, Isabel. So, but Isabel is fighting for, like, because in this case, normally we're against these big corporate takeovers that push the mom and pops, a thing that's like happened 9 times in American history, but we act like it happens all the time. There were no coffee shops before Starbucks. I couldn't find them anywhere. Okay, they didn't run them out of town. But like this case, it seems like Isabel's probably right, that this will help people, and whereas Maggie Smith is like, I don't want to give up. I don't want things to change. Stop taking things away. Stop changing. Stop changing in the hospital. This is at least something that was ours.
Remind me, did this doctor kill Lady Sybil, or was it the visiting doctor that killed Lady Sybil?
It was the visiting doctor.
Okay, because this doctor actually had the right idea, and then nobody would listen to him.
Yeah, because otherwise he wouldn't be on the show anymore.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I understand the whole thing of like, do you think he's a good doctor? It's like, well, he's fine, but there are techniques, and there's technology, and there's all this stuff that this little hospital, no matter how generously endowed it is by the Crawleys, is never going to they're never going to get unless they hook up to somebody else.
Be a better doctor with all these other resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't. We've yet to have his point of view explained. He's just announced that he's on the side. He said something about sometimes, like, why doesn't he want it? Why isn't he, you know, what's his name? Clive Owen would be psyched for this, right? From the neck would be psyched for more opportunity to do more surgeries and more things,
heroin,
more experimenting, more heroin in York. York has a lot of good dope. So yeah, I'm not really into the hospital thing either. I don't want to.
I never care for it. I
Yeah.
just think I think it's kind of lame. I think, you know, ultimately, and I'll say this with the doctor, I think he feels that he's going to get kind of run out of, you know, a job, and that he's just going to not really have much. Yeah, and I'm just like,
Because he's the old country doctor, and he's not ready for the new
I'm not
wave.
good enough for the big old city boys, and it's like,
And he's twice had that moment.
Yeah.
Of, do you really think I don't care about patients? Twice
Yeah.
he's been like, do you care? I don't care, but want to save lives. Like he did it to Maggie Smith, and he did it to Hugh Bonneville in this episode. I think that both Robert and Cora, I can't believe I got their names. It's awesome. It took 6 years. I think it's okay if they scold Mary. Like, hey, you're great. This business is good. Like, stop. Like when Cora's like, well, it's Mrs. Hughes' wedding. I need you to do some Cora.
In the church.
3 words all the time. Like Cora needs to be like, stop just dropping hints. Be like, hey, Mary, Mrs. Hughes wants to pick her own thing. Let her goddamn do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back the fuck up.
Like you're my daughter. Do as I say. And she needs to, you know, and she just needs to throw her muscle around. And Robert too. They're like too delighted to go to bed and be like, oh, look, they're going shopping together. Our kids who hate each other. Like do something about it. Like,
Well, and again, you know, I think a part of the way to solve the Mrs. Drews problem is move to London. Edith just needs to move to London.
Edith, yeah, right. The Drews don't need to move. She
Get
needs
the
to
hell out of
fire
there.
that.
Fire that asshole editor. Yeah, hire a smart woman. I'm sure there's plenty of them waiting to climb the ladder.
Yeah, right.
And then we have our own new series. They just
totally.
do a spinoff.
Yes.
Oh, right, yeah.
Edith's adventures as a single mother. I'm in.
I love it.
That's even
Especially
better.
with her new fashion sense.
Absolutely, that's even better. That's even better than Spratt and Denker open a B&B.
No sense in this episode that Tom's coming back.
No, not yet.
I don't think so. Yeah, and Thomas, do we think?
Enough. What is he? Does he want to sleep with that guy?
Yeah, well, yeah, apparently.
Does Thomas not want to sleep with
Yeah,
them?
I mean, it's like, at what point does he like realize that vamping the footman is just not going to get him anywhere?
But now you know what I think? That he's done it so much and so relentless, and the guy is so quick to say no that guy is repressed and won't even.
But I feel like we've
but
had
at some point he's going to be like, they're going to go for a walk together, and then they're going to make out.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they'll be
Thomas seems
actually
to
happy,
Thomas is making out like he knows something that nobody else does, but I don't know. It just for that character at that time, it seems like even among his fellow servants, he would be so much more circumspect.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just like on it all the time. He is always closing.
Yeah, he is always. And what's her name? She's so lovely. I mean, you know, he doesn't appreciate you for it, and she's like, yeah, I know that. Even more reason to like. She is that's a tender woman.
Yes. Well, please. She likes Mosley. I mean, she's got to be like a saint.
Yeah, that's true. She's into it. Although Mosley's, you know, he's doing all this stand-up stuff for days.
That's true. You know. That's true. Yes, he's been helpful.
So yeah, I don't. Wait, we were talking. Oh yeah. So Tom, I get the feeling that. How bad must Gaydar have been in 1925?
And in England, you know,
England. I mean, Jesus,
who can
right.
tell?
Right. Yeah. Because you know, secretly, they're all a little kids, right? So
They all went to boarding school,
all
right?
to boarding school. Like, come on. Anyway, but still, as always, you know, didn't keep it from being entertaining. Even though it's peculiar that they've made this.
This felt like, especially for a show that's in its final season, like not much happens in this episode. Like it's very kind of.
Both the first two. I mean, we resolved. You know, they're laying groundwork for something happening with Bates and Anna, either death or pregnancy or adoption.
Right.
Like there's
Yeah.
three
Options.
roads.
Yeah.
3 roads we can go there.
The wedding, and that's always a good episode.
Right,
you
sure.
know.
Right, the wedding, and which I guess from the coming up soon is actually
Next week,
Yeah.
coming. Yeah, and we resolved the, you know, we're getting closer to a some sort of, well, I would hope, a connection between Mary and Edith, because clearly Mary is going to find out. That
Yeah.
seems to me. The Mary, we're set up for Mary to find out and react either like, oh, you hussy, or finally realized I could easily have gotten pregnant
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
from Mr. Pamuk or
Pamuk, yeah. I love how Cora's like, she could use it against her. She probably would. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Wow.
That's a revelation about your own child that just kind of went
right. All the
cascading
more
out like
reason
no
why,
big
like,
deal.
let's go, like, yell at her a little bit, like,
Yeah.
parent her.
They've let Mary run wild this entire time.
Yeah, it's
That's
a little
right.
late now,
Yeah.
I guess.
So we're set up for that, and we're set up for something with Anna and Bates, and
The hospital
and I guess
showdown.
I guess the hospital, and you know, and I take it some possibility because Julian Fellows says everyone will get some resolution. It may not be a happy resolution, but it won't be completely hanging. But the show is not going to end like
Right.
Downton Abbey. It's not going to it's not going to burn up in a fire.
Right.
You know,
Oh, maybe Daisy moves to London with Edith.
and it goes to work.
It goes to work.
Work there, yeah.
There we go.
Right, Daisy can
That'd be
work
nice.
there. Yeah, I mean, they're whatever the newspaper it is, those people eat lunch, they make a mess. Somebody's got to do those dishes.
Right?
Why not Daisy?
Aw.
Daisy's gonna have
Learning.
she's gonna have a degree in
Kidding.
something.
Yeah.
Kidding.
I
It's a
know.
joke.
I know. She's not a very good cook anyway.
All right, everybody, back next week for episode 3 of the final season of Downton Abbey. Thanks for watching.